just do my usual little "is it working" dance. Hello everybody, happy new week, happy Monday, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time visiting, well, hello there, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe and ding my little bell for notifications, because you never know when I might be surprising you with something. As always, I'm relying on you folk in the chat to tell me if there's something wrong with the stream, because I'm a boomer. I really don't have a clue what I'm doing when it comes to any form of technology. How was your weekend, everybody? I hope it was good. I had a quiet weekend, except I enjoyed spending my Saturday night with you guys. That was great. We should do that every now and then. Let's have a look at what chat's saying. Hi. I can't. Kaz, you're back. Watching this on the rerun. Hello. You're one of the reasons why I altered what I was going to do today. I had this plan in my head that we were going to do Sim Kaz, and I just didn't feel right doing Sim Kaz without actual Kaz being here, because we can get a little bit naughty with Sim Kaz. So it's all ready to go. I've got another episode good, but I just wasn't feeling it this morning. You know, didn't feel like a Sim Kaz kind of morning, because I actually spent most of the morning having a really great chat with a few fine folk in my messenger, which is, if you've sent me a message and I haven't gotten back to you, I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can say. I'm really bad for it. Nothing personal. I might randomly one day get to it. And yeah, Nicole King. Well, yeah, Nicole King was one of the fine folk that I was having a Facebook conversation with, and I'm not usually on Facebook, but I do use the Messenger, and I was also talking to one of my very favourite gentleman veteran friends, and we were talking about helping yourself, you know, how to keep going when things are bad, because without realising it, we both, you know, he mentioned that he was lonely, but from the outside looking in, he's always strong and he's always got it together. And then I said, yeah, you know, I've been feeling a little bit lonely lately too. My daughter and my granddaughters have moved. They're only a little bit further away from me. But I thought, isn't that interesting that if we hadn't talked about it, we'd both just be sitting there feeling lonely, not making that connection. So I thought, why don't we today talk about, one, how I got my channel name, because it's kind of intrinsically linked into all of this, and how you keep going when things get dark. How do you guys keep going when things get dark? And they get dark for everybody, civilian, veteran, whether you've got a mental health issue or whether you don't. Life has ups and life has downs, and some of those downs can be really, really subterranean downs, and they can be so far down that you actually don't even realize it when you're at the top sometimes. So you have to just keep going. And how do you do that? Now, this guy that I was speaking to this morning has more reason than anybody else I know to not keep going. But he always does. And even with his other challenges, we'll call them, because he seems to overcome them. In fact, he's a great overcomer. He also has the normal ups and downs of life, you know, like we all do. Just because you actually have PTSD or something else doesn't mean that life's normal ups and downs don't stop happening. And if you're not careful, they can really, you'll be like a little boat rocking around on the ocean, and you won't be able to, you know, steer yourself to safe shores. Yes, the Shamagi's back because it's chilly here today. How chilly is it at your place? Because it is flippin' cold here today. I got like layers on. I got t-shirts, long sleeves. I got all sorts on. And I was hoping to go out into my garden today because it's not raining, but the fog still hasn't lifted, and it may not lift until about lunchtime. So I don't know. I'm going to have to rug up even better if I want to go outside. Yeah, exactly, stick man. That's exactly right. The first years were very dark. Yeah, I've had some dark times, like really dark times. I'm not in a dark place at the moment. I just want you all to know. You don't have to worry about me. If I was in a dark place, I probably wouldn't be able to talk about this subject. And I rarely, I won't say rarely. Oh yeah, rarely. Maybe once a year, twice a year. One of life's up and downs will happen, and that'll just sink me lower with my other compounding issues. But then you've got to always be able to get yourself out of there. Sometimes you need someone else's help, but that's also about helping yourself. And we talked about self-care before, and that is important, and I hope everyone's practicing it. Yep, Keely, that's such a good way to do it, to find something bigger than yourself to focus on. Exactly, because then you've got an anchor. And I think anchors and community are really, really important. And I think also, and we don't talk about it very much, how you define yourself, I think, has a lot to do with it. Like, I think it's time we sort of changed our attitudes towards mental health issues. And if you had like you had to wear glasses, like I do often, but if you had to wear glasses, you wouldn't define yourself by your not perfect vision. If you had like a fungal infection somewhere, you wouldn't define who you are by it. And I think it's time we probably stopped defining ourselves by our mental health issues as well. You know, they are a thing that we deal with. They're a health issue. And I think it's time we stopped separating the two, because that stigma really gets in the way of folk getting appropriate tools and treatment that could really help improve their quality of life. You know, it might even be the best thing that ever happened to you. So, good morning, Carl P. Nice to see you. Yeah, JP's homesick for Queensland because it is a bit miserable today. It's cold. We haven't really had much of a winter. I was talking to Ed B about his summer, and that was was it on Saturday? I can't remember. But he was telling me how warm it was there, and it was really beautiful weather there. And I thought, but we still haven't had any snow really low yet this year. So it's still quite a warm winter. What? I wouldn't have known, Michael Stott. Well, we'll just move right along then on that note. So it's good to be back. I hope you don't all mind me changing the schedule so that it's not Simcaz today. Although it's a good one. He took custody of Hillary and Karen. It's all going pretty good. Now, like I said, things aren't dark for me at the moment, but there have been times when they were. But sort of now I'm equipped with enough like therapy tools and a community to always keep the tiniest flame burning so that it's never pitch black. Okay, so there's always just because even a tiny candle will cast away that darkness, okay, if you think of it metaphorically. Sorry, my brain's a bit somewhere else today. I think I'm feeling artistic. I think there's a painting or something brewing in me. So I'm feeling quite deep and meaningful today. So I hope you're understanding my metaphors. And here's how I came to name my channel Lauren is Shining. It actually just used to be Lauren Shining, and I never intended to be a YouTuber. I only made a YouTube account to support veterans on YouTube, and that's what I did with Kaz. And I thought, well, what's a name? Because I hate picking names for things, don't you guys? Like when you've got to pick a name. And I thought, well, Lauren is shining, because the thing is, if I've got that tiny little flame when my times are really dark, and when I say dark, they're dark, they'd be challenging for anybody, some of the things that have happened to me. And if I can still have that little flame, maybe someone else who's out there, but they're in the pitch black, maybe they'll be able to just grab a little bit of light from my tiny flame. Maybe they can light their own little candle off of it. And so that's how my channel got its name. So Lauren is shining. So, despite the great darkness I've been in and sometimes are temporarily in, I always have this little candle. And my friend this morning said to me something that I actually hadn't heard before. And he said it's something you learn in the army. So a lot of you guys will probably know about it. And he said self-aid before first aid. And I'm surprised. I probably have heard it before, but it was just like one of those light bulb moments where you go, oh, like that really makes sense. And so you have to look after yourself before you can, render aid to other people. And it's so simple. And we talked about it in our self-care. Part of self-care is actually being responsible for your own well-being and your motives and things like that. And my friend and I this morning, we were talking about waiting for conditions to be perfect before you do your therapy or before you do, take proactive steps to help improve your lifestyle. Even if you don't have a mental health issue, you should always be growing and learning, because the day you think you know everything, is the day you should probably realize you're wrong as well. So a lot of people, it seems, they like, yes, I'm going to practice this, or I'm going to give this up, or I'm going to start doing this, but, and it's always that but, and we can all find that, but this happened to me last week, but that happened to me this week, but this just happened. And even though it does make that more difficult and more of a challenge, it's even more important to actually do that thing that you were going to do, because if you're like me, you hate change. Like, I really hate change. Like, I have OCD. I hate change. But change is actually mostly good. It's like the death card in the tarot. That doesn't necessarily mean death. Sometimes the old things, they have to die away and things have to change so that things can become better. So if you're resisting that change, and I'm not saying you're doing it consciously, because I've been there, okay? And there's the only reason. I'm not a professional. This is just my experience. And I've been there and I've found myself resisting change. But the truth is that change had to come, because now things are so much better. And so it's scary, but you've got to do it. Yeah, Michael Stoll, I'm so glad you're here for this one, because you probably know an awful lot more about what it is that's going on than I do. I just know what I've experienced and what I've found. So my first tip would be, don't wait for conditions to be perfect, because they're never going to be. They're never, ever going to be. Life has things happen. Some are positive, some are negative, most are neutral, right? And the neutral ones are great, because you can make them either positive, or negative, remember? So don't be doing that. Remember, you've got to share your light. You're not trying to make anybody's existence darker. You should want to be making everybody's existence a little bit lighter. Even if you don't have a lot to give, your light could mean, an awful lot to someone else. Stickman, exactly. And I'm a terrible procrastinator. I actually work best when it's last minute, under pressure, deadline. But it doesn't mean I'm happy about it. It's actually not it's not a mentally healthy way to work. But it's true. And those planets are never going to align for everything to be perfect before you start going for your daily walk, or giving up grog, or doing something else, or putting in a healthy habit, or something like that. You've got to keep going. Michael Stott says, experience plus book learning equals the therapeutic alliance that can fight the black dog. Exactly. And and these are skills. I don't want people, if you're here in the chat right now or watching this video right now and you just come to my channel for the art or whatever, I don't want you to be thinking this isn't for you either. If you are mentally well at the moment, you should be proactive in staying that way, because life's ups and downs, and we're all just one tiny down, a car accident, witnessing something, having one small traumatic thing happen before you're on our side of the fence and you're looking at it from a PTSD point of view or a depression point of view. So this is for you as well, staying mentally healthy. Like I said, we need to think of it as health, I'm sure. I don't quite understand why we don't, because you wouldn't define yourself by a boil you had somewhere, but yet if you've got depression, it may become your whole identity, and that is not what you should be doing. And you must keep going, because we over in Kaz's channel and that, there's a lot of duty first gets said a lot in the veteran community. But that duty extends to the people around you also. And this is controversial, but I'm going to say it. It's your duty to keep going. It's your duty to your children. It's your duty to your family. It's your duty to what you can give to your community. You're putting out your own light, or you've got no light left, but you can always reignite your light, and you might actually have a lot to give to other people, but you have to get your light burning first. And lifting each other up is something that really needs to be done. Like I'm a very demonstrative person. I will always tell people, I love you, and I will say what I like about them and things that I haven't always been that way, but I purposely wanted to be that way. And lifting someone up, if you notice that there's something good happen to them, or that they're doing well, make sure you do send them a message. You don't have to say it in public, because I know nowadays everything's kind of said in public, like Facebook posts and things like that. But send them a message and just say, hey, that was really awesome. I'm really glad you got through that, or well done on doing this. You might presume they've got a lot of people doing that for them already, but they may not actually. Everybody might be thinking like you. Yeah, JP, that's true. Whenever my dog goes downstairs, and if you were here for my stream on Saturday, you would have seen that my dog had to go visit JP, and he is a black dog, and he eats all JP's cat's food. But like I said, he's a chunky boy. He was pound puppy, unknown quantity. He just seems to want a glutton. There's nothing I can do about it. Sharing your experiences with people. I think you need to do this, and this is difficult for me. This was really difficult for me. It's been a lot easier lately, because sometimes you can carry a shame about it, which I think comes with that stigma of how we talk about mental health. And I think sometimes you can feel, maybe if you are defining yourself by what's happened to you, what you can't do, or a mental health issue, when you should think of it like a health issue. If you're defining yourself by that, it can make it very hard to share experiences, because if you're like me, you'll put up a front, like a public front, and that's not even really being duplicitous. That's actually just a survival mechanism, because you don't want to bring anyone down. You don't want to sound like you're always whinging. You don't want to be accused of playing the victim or anything. So it can be hard to share your experiences. But if you've already checked that that's not your identity, and that you are genuinely having some issues that you can't solve with your therapy tools, or you must, don't be afraid of therapy. For heaven's sakes, if you've got an issue, even a minor one, do not be afraid of going to therapy. Yes, it can take a couple of return visits to your GP to say, that I'm not clicking with that therapist. I don't like their style of working. I don't like something's not working for me there. Do that. Be in control of your own mental health recovery, healing process. But this is where you really do need a good GP, and you need a good relationship with your GP. So if you're skipping from GP to GP, which I know can be difficult because they get very busy, and if you're like me, you just go to a medical centre, but it can make a world of difference in this consistency of care. And you must share with them honestly, because they just can't, like we talked about with Stuart McCarthy, you may end up with a treatment that is actually even dangerous for you if it's not if you've not shared your experiences properly. However, you don't need to be talking about your experiences constantly. I can always tell when someone's having a bad time or they're really traumatized about something and they're not dealing with it, is because it keeps coming up in the conversation. If you ever find yourself sounding like a broken record, and you can just tell, like, even with people in the tattoo shop, they just come in. There was this one woman who'd come in and she couldn't stop talking about her nan who died like 10 years ago or something. And it was really sad. And I'm not saying, I certainly knew she couldn't get over it, so I would never, ever say that. But she also had learning difficulties, which made it difficult, so you might face multiple comorbid barriers, but there's things you can do to help. And even if that is just trusting your therapy, trusting your GP, being proactive, don't define yourself, by something that you've been diagnosed with. I think it's very important. And I think it's also important to catch yourself. If you find yourself not being able to stop thinking about something that's going round and round, or that if you can't stop yourself, you can't have a normal conversation without someone without bringing up the same ailment over and over and over, ailment, issue, experience, you're stuck on something, and therapy can really help you get unstuck off those things. And there's all sorts of ways, so it might take a few different tries of different stuff. I found the EMDR to be very helpful, but there was things that couldn't shift as well. So I've had to try lots of different, under the guidance of a therapist, like art therapy. You should really never be doing that without being under the guidance of a licensed art therapist. Now, in my area where I live, there is none available to me. So I worked, because I'm a professional artist, I had the art bit covered, right? But so between me and my therapist, we decided we'd try to do a little bit ourselves. So we did, but I would never even consider beginning. It's a serious business. It's, painting and drawing and art and even just being creative. Like I said, stack some rocks, make a love heart out of the leaves in your garden or something. Just be a bit creative. That can be really good for you. But if you're going to try some really deep therapy to unstick some of that stuff, those broken records, you really do need a proper therapist who knows what's going on with your brain, what the risks are, what the things we should maybe avoid are, what the things we definitely need to address are. That's their business. That's why they go to school, isn't it, Michael Stott? I mean, because you are not just having toga parties all the time. You're actually learning, and he's learning an awful lot about our brains. And often, this was a hard thing for me to come to realize, but my therapist knew my brain better than me. They didn't know my experiences better than me. But what was happening to me wasn't unique. There was books written about it. There's been studies done. So I had to trust them, and I had to trust their therapeutic techniques. But of course, I've gotten pretty lucky with therapists. But there have been times where I've had to say to my GP, this isn't working. Community. So you might be surrounded by people. You might have heaps and heaps of friends. You might not have many friends. But it's the quality of those relationships that develop your community. And even with strangers, Oh, that's sad. You've just blown my vision of university. I thought it was all toga parties. Yeah, I agree, Stickman. I agree. Because, once you've had some pretty serious shiznack happen to you in life experiences, it is helpful when you have got someone there who has some experience in what your perspective actually is, and that can't be done. Yeah. I so badly want to go to a toga party one day. It's never going to happen. I'd probably hate it. It'd be awful. But when you community, we're also talking about like your local community. Are you involved in anything there? Is there a community garden or something you can go and join something quiet. Maybe you like things loud. Maybe there's like a comedy club or something you can go join, and develop these new positive ways to connect with communities. There's often social clubs. Go become a Freemason. Ladies, join the CWA or your local ladies auxiliary. There's got to be ways to connect into your community. And it's actually very important to have a physical community around you. Although I find I've got a pretty good balance. I've got a physical community around me. And I've also got you guys, like an online community. And there's a difference between community and friends. You must remember that too. There are people I speak to on a daily basis who you will never see here. You will never see us converse in public, but I speak to them on a daily basis. And I can be totally open with them about how I'm feeling, what's going on. In fact, we've got such a good friendship now. It's to the point of where they'll just know if I've gone a bit quiet or if I'm looking a little bit thin or things like that. They will send me a message, and we know each other so well, and I will do the same for them. And it is a give and take. You've got to not just be always withdrawing from the friendship and never depositing, okay? You've got to give and take. Even if there's something wrong with you, even if you're going through a dark time right now, remember, if you're still going, you've got a little tiny candle or some sort of light, and you cannot tell who might need that. So, Michael Stott, I did a diploma in counselling, worked a bit, then got a scholarship through GVA for my bachelor degree, so I could evolve. Stotty, no, exactly, Stotty, you haven't even explored the edges of your potential yet, and I love that attitude. I feel like I have the same attitude, and that's why when Kaz suggested to me, you should totally be streaming or putting up videos, and it was hard for me. Only those people I speak to on a daily basis know actually how hard it was for me to do that, because I'm very shy, and I also would sometimes define myself by how I saw myself in a negative light, and so I think there's nothing interesting about me, there's nothing. I couldn't talk to all those people, but here I am doing it, And yeah, I understand, Stickman, I do. And JP went through exactly the same thing with the counselling. But stick to it. If you've got a regular GP, explain to them why you didn't like it. Because most of the counsellors have like a little mission statement thing, or what their type of counselling is, or what they do. And your GP should be able to pick one that maybe fits well for you. It does depend on where you are. Again, if you're in a rural area, like Stuart McCarthy was saying, it's going to have to be our priority, I think, in the veteran community to start getting some help to them, because I believe people in rural areas are at higher risk of the S word anyway. I'm not sure, but we do need to address what's accessible to people. And this isn't just veterans either. There is, I've spoken to a lot of people who work in the disability sector, and they've described it as and this was before the other pandemic, they described it as a pandemic. PTSD is the modern day. It's going to be everybody's biggest challenge, because we're recognising, it's not that it wasn't always there, we're recognising how much of a part it plays in forming the person who then grows up to cause other issues in our community. So it is important for us to look at, because they were speaking to me about the rate of PTSD in teenage girls. And, of course, childhood abuse it's almost like there's something wrong with you if you think there's something not wrong with you, if you've been through something severely awful. Some people have this, I believe, a genetic resistance to it, and that is great. But the people with PTSD aren't just veterans, and don't presume that just because someone has PTSD that they are a veteran. You can get it any old how. There's a whole heap of ways to get it. but it's all pretty stock standard. It can all be treated with different things. It may not be going away, but there's things you can do to scratch back a little bit of a quality of life. We've really got to start talking about this in realistic terms. Like the rates of like children with PTSD should frighten people, because it's hard enough for us adults to go through it. They're still developing their worldview. They can't have the self-awareness that we have to be able to be proactive. So we owe it to them to be proactive. Study saying, I can help with top-down therapies like CBT and DBT. What are they? What's CBT? What are they? Layman's terms, please study. Well, teaching bottom-up approach, such as mindfulness. Yes, exactly. Yeah, see, those things, that's exactly what I speak with my therapists about. And I have a pretty good... Yeah, they are stick man, that's true. And that's what this is about. It's resilience. But I've seen an awful lot of adults who aren't resilient. And all they do is talk about their points of trauma. They don't go off and do things with their life. All they do is just like a broken record. They're stuck there. And you can see it's like, excuse me, your psychology's showing, you're going to need some therapy. You need to get off that wheel of getting stuck there. And I know, because I have been there. Exactly, Nicole King. Yep, exactly. In fact, there was a study done recently that should frighten people about veterans' children and the rates of PTSD in veterans' children. And that's why we really need to... Oh, cognitive behavior therapy, of course. What's the other one? I've never even heard of that. Dialectal behavior therapy? Is that just like the chit-chat therapy? That's it. From the customer's point of view. Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot, there really is this problem with grown-up children. And we have a duty to manage our own PTSDs and that, so that it doesn't become the gift that keeps on giving, so that it minimises the effect on our children, so it minimises the effect on our neighbours and our communities, physical, online, wherever they are. If we look after ourselves, it's less weight everybody else has to pick up. And then I think in the community, we would have a better chance of picking up those who really, really are desperately clinging on in the pitch darkness, So it's something... I actually really want to get this friend of mine on to talk. I think he should, because he spoke at one of the PTSD courses that Kaz went to, and Kaz said his story was actually very inspiring to him, and it is to me too. I said to him this morning, and he hadn't realised, that there were times when just knowing he existed and had his attitude that he had and had overcome what he'd overcome had kept me going when I'd felt weary and like I couldn't go on and that there was no point. So that was, I suppose, metaphorically me seeing his light shining from a distance, and I just sort of guided myself towards his light until I got my own lit again. So everybody's little candle goes out sometimes, but you've got to quickly get it lit again and use someone else's flame to light it. I'm certain I've got a painting brewing. I'm talking, JP will know. I tend to get very metaphoric and artistic when I start my creative process. And, paintings stalk me. They're in my brain, and they just sort of, every now and then, they come into my vision and of my mind's eye until they sort of gain clarity, and then it all comes out. So I think I'm being stalked by a painting right now. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Sorry if it was a short one. There's no news or history today. But I was going to tell you about this week. Heaps of great stuff. Regular schedule, 9:30 a.m. We're going to be talking about amazing crowns. We're going to be talking about lost treasures. We're going to be talking about traditional femininity. And hopefully we will be playing some Simkaz at some point this week when he is back in the chat, okay? So I hope you can join me for those subjects. I was thinking, should we get Dan and Pete back again next week? What do you guys think? Should we do a bit more of the Night Watchers Paranormal? Because I really want them to tell me about their new season that they've got coming up. And they're running a competition. So I don't know if it's closed or not, but you definitely need to go to Night Watchers Paranormal because you might win the chance to go on a ghost hunt with them. So how ace would that be? That'd be awesome. So you need to really go in there. So remember today that if you are surrounded by darkness at the moment, you can just look for that little tiny light coming from my little tiny shining flame, because Lauren is shining. And remember that Lauren is shining, and you can use it like a little mini lighthouse to guide you safely to shore, and I will relight your flame if you ever need me to. Just let me know. Remember, it sounds corny, but this too shall pass, okay? It could be the pitchiest darkness, but if our community, with all our little flames that we've got, stand around the people who are in the darkness, then it should light up their world a little bit more. Anyway, before I get too artistic, that's it. I'm going to get out of there. And I will see you all at 9:30 tomorrow morning, and it should be a really good one, okay? So thanks, everybody, for being here. Nicole, I'll probably just pick up our conversation in a minute where we left off. So love and kisses, everybody. Be good and have a fantastic Monday. Bye.